The Changeling by Lady Wilde. A woman was one night lying awake while her husband slept, when the door suddenly opened and a tall, dark man entered, of fierce aspect, followed by an old hag with a child in her arms, a little misshapen, sickly-looking little thing. They both sat down by the fire to warm themselves, and after some time the man looked over at the cradle that stood beside the mother's bed with her boy in it, kept his eyes on it for several minutes. Then he rose, and when the mother saw him walking directly to the cradle, she fainted and knew no more. When she came to herself, she called to her husband and bade him light a candle, and when she did, the old hag in the corner rose up and once again blew it out. When he lit it a second time, it was blown out. The third time he lit the candle, when again it was blown out. A great peal of laughter was heard in the darkness. On this the man grew terribly angry, and taking up the tongs, he made a blow for the hag, but she slipped away and struck him on the arm with a stick she held in her hand. Then he grew more furious, and beat her on the head until she roared, when he pushed her outside and locked the door. After this he lit the candle in peace, but when he looked at the cradle, lo, in the place of the beautiful boy, a hideous little creature, all covered with hair, lay grinning at them. Great was their grief and lamentation, and both the man and his wife wept and wailed aloud for the loss of their child, and the cry for the sorrow was bitter to hear. Just then the door suddenly opened, and a young woman came in, with a scarlet handkerchief wound around her head. "What are you crying for?" she said, "at this time of night when everyone should be asleep?" "Look at the child in this cradle," answered the man, "and you shall cease to wonder why we mourn and we are sad." And he told her all the story. When the young woman went over to the cradle and looked at the child, she laughed, but said nothing. "Your laughter is stranger than our tears," said the man. "Why do you laugh at the face of our sorrows?" "Because," she said, "this is my child that's stolen from me tonight. For I am one of the fair race. My people who live under the fort on the hill thought your boy was a fine child, so they changed the babies in the cradle. But after all, I would rather have my own, ugly as he is, than a mortal child in the world. So now I'll tell you how to get your own son back, and I'll take away mine at once. Go to the old fort on the hill when the moon is full, and take with you 3 sheaves of corn and some fire, and burn them one after the other. When the last sheaf is burning, an old man will come up through the smoke, and he will ask you what it is you desire. Then tell him you must have your child back, or you will burn down the fort and leave no dwelling place for his people on the hill. Now the fairies cannot stand against the power of fire, and they will give you back your child at the mere threat of burning the fort. But mind, take good care of him after, and tie a nail from a horseshoe round his neck, and then he will be safe." With that the young woman took up the ugly little imp from the cradle in her arms, and was away before they could see how she got out of the house. The next night, when the moon was full, the man went to the old fort with 3 sheaves of corn and fire. He burned them one after the other. As the second one was lighted, there came up an old man who asked him what his desire. "I must have my child again that was stolen," he answered, "or burn down every tree on the hill and not leave you a stone of the fort where you can shelter any more of your fairy kindred." Then the old man vanished, and there was a great silence, but no one appeared. On this the father grew angry, and he called out in a loud voice, "I'm lifting the 3rd sheaf now, and I'll burn and destroy and make desolate your dwelling place if my child is not returned." Then a great tumult and clamor was heard from the fort, and a voice said, Let it be. The power of the fire is too strong for us. Bring forth the child. And presently the old man appeared, carrying the child in his arms. Take him, he said. By the spell of the fire and the corn you have conquered, take my advice. Draw a circle of fire with a hot coal this night around the cradle when you get home, and the fairy power cannot touch him any more. And my reason of the fire. So the man did as he desired, and by the spell of fire and of the corn the child was saved from evil, and he grew and prospered, and the old fort stands to this day safe from harm, for the man wouldn't allow no hand to move a stone or harm the trees. And the fairies still dance there on the rath when the moon is full, to the music of the fairy pipes, and no one hinders them.